All right, welcome to another edition of SJHL Weekly. Don't adjust your television sets. I am not Jeromy Corrigan. As you can tell, I'm Clark Monroe from IKS Media. If you watch SJHL Insider on Thursday, you might know who I am. I am here on Monday now, filling in for the under the weather, quite literally, as this weather is knocking out a lot of people, Jeromy Corrigan. And I hope you're getting well, Jeromy. I know you're watching, so I will do my best to fill in for Jeromy. But there's a lot to get into. Today on the show, we will be joined by Notre Dame Hounds defenseman Vincent Palmarin. He's got some big news in terms of some community stuff that he's got going on, so we'll get into that with him. Players of the Week later in the show, plus a special announcement. It'll be the first public reveal. Like these guys, I won't get to them yet, but these guys haven't even fully seen these things yet. The first public reveal of the SJHL, MJHL Showcase rosters, which we're all very excited to get into. We're even going to talk about the coaching staffs and everything. Welcome to the show. My co-hosts here, obviously Rory McGouran and Jamie Neugebauer, are with me. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me today.
No problem,
thank you for having me today, first of all. A little bit. We're getting through it, though.
And I should say that Jeromy is a nail gun. He's a tough dude. He works through all sorts of ailments and injuries, so he must be quite sick to not be here. So get better, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get into too much of the content today, I want to thank our sponsors. And to do that, we have to start with UPL, as you can see behind us in the stadium that we are sitting in today. UPL is all over the place, but so thank you to UPL. Also, Cantera Seeds, Borgo, Capital Auto Mall, Chevrolet, Great Western, Nutrien, RBC, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Sask Lotteries. I'm trying to do this as fast as Jeromy usually does it because he rattles these things off so well. Tourism Saskatchewan, UPL, again, thank you. Sask Energy, SGEU, and SGI. It's also like an eye test because the list is underneath the camera over there. And it's a bit of a optometrist thing going on, so that's good. But thank you to all of our sponsors. Obviously, without our sponsors, these shows and coverage would not and could not happen. So big shout out to everybody. Guys, let's get into it. The weekend happened. It was extremely cold. Car problems, bus problems. Rory, let's start with you. How was your weekend?
It had some great hockey involved with it between the Humboldt Broncos and the Melfort Mustangs. Of course, we'll get that in the first segment with our recap. But it's getting to a point of the season where checking the out-of-town scoreboard is almost getting as fun as calling the game you're actually watching because there's just so much going on, and the playoff movement around that number 8 line, what's happening up top with the top 4. It's fun to kind of watch and get sneak peeks of what's happening around the league, and that's where we're in now. I think you got 8 teams that are playing playoff hockey 20 games before the end of the season. Yeah,
absolutely. It's been a fun race in a lot of ways, a lot of different parts, like you said, in the standings. We'll get into that later. Jamie, now, I want to give you a moment here because you, and not just you, but a few other folks, had a bit of a weekend yourselves. You want to get into that?
Yeah, long story short, the Notre Dame Hounds bus broke down between Chamberlain and Moose Jaw, and it was minus 50 million degrees outside. And we had to switch buses, and I got home at 5 in the morning myself. And so I'm a bit of a puddle this morning, so please bear with me. And also Rory and Jeromy and everybody were very kind to be like, oh, that sucks, man. But anyways, what can you do? And the best news, of course, is that everybody's okay. Yeah. And as you said, Rory, 2 great games for you between Humboldt and Melfort. 2 terrific hockey games between Notre Dame and Kindersley and Battlefords as well. Whatever the scoreboard says, they were 2 great games, very even games. So I was treated to 2 good games, even if the results didn't go Notre Dame's way, but character wins for Battlefords and Kindersley.
Yeah, I'll just do one quick shout out to bus drivers in general around this province and wherever the cold is affecting everybody, because bus drivers are taking the brunt of it. And I know when the bus goes down, another bus or bus driver has to step in and fill the void. So Big shout out to bus drivers today. They should get the MVP of the week for SGEU this week because bus drivers, the unsung heroes of junior hockey in general.
Yeah.
But let's get into the weekend and look at some of these recaps. There were 9 games scheduled. 8 games took place. We'll get into that. But let's have a look at Friday's schedule. L'Orange, they took a 5-2 win over the Weyburn Red Wings. Kindersley snuck out a 3-2 win over Notre Dame. Melfort over Humboldt 5-2. And then this one was postponed. Nipawin and Flin Flon. That'll be rescheduled for Wednesday, and we'll get into that later in the show.
Can I just say, actually, that the Flin... Can we go back to that to Friday just for a second? The Flin Flon Bombers, great idea. They invited the fans out to the Whitney Forum. They had a draft. They had a 3-on-3 tournament. Apparently it was epic. Matt Egan, who we're all praying and are right behind as he's recovering from cancer, obviously, with the Flin Flon Bombers. His rights were moved in a trade in that 3-on-3 tournament. And I believe for Cohen Senft and a PDF and a smoothie from a local smoothie joint up in Flin Flon. But a great 3-on-3 tournament. I asked Mike Reagan if they could sell 50-50s at the 3-on-3 tournament. He said, I don't think we can. But anyways, apparently it turned out great. So there are actually sort of 9 games played. Anyway,
okay, that's good to know. Yeah, absolutely. And anytime a team can come up with a creative fundraiser or just community event like that, it's always a good time. Let's look at Saturday's games here now. Yorkton, what a barn burner that was. 7-5 over Weyburn. Estevan took a 5-2 win over L'Orange. Humboldt bounced back with a 4-0 win over Melfort. Battlefords took 6-2 win over Notre Dame. And then on Sunday, there was one matchup where Melville doubled up Nipawin 4-2. Gentlemen, let's start with those Melville Millionaires. They are rocking right now, looking good after the trade deadline. They made some moves. As Jeromy and I on SJHL Insider said, they kind of shuffled the deck a little bit. There were some players coming out. There were some players coming in. So the Melville Millionaires, let's get into it.
Yeah, finally a team not in the top 4 now that's above 500, right? Before there was just everyone was either 500 or below it, with half of them in the playoff spot. So you mentioned it. The Melville Millionaires are rocking right now. They've won 3 games in a row. They've gotten up towards the Nipawin Hawks, and the best thing for the Melville Millionaires is I know there's 20 games left, control their own destiny, if you can say that this early, because they have played the fewest amount of games outside of every team around them. Nipawin, Estevan, Kindersley, Weyburn, Yorkton, L'Orange all played more games than the Melville Millionaires. Again, they play with this system that, again, if you don't want to believe in the Melville Millionaires and think that 31 games in, they're pretending, I think I'll call you foolish, because they will suck you into a game, slow you down, trap you. All of a sudden in the second intermission, you're looking at the scoreboard, you're tied 2-2 with the Melville Millionaires, they'll score a 3rd goal, and you're like, what the heck happened? Like, it's just time doesn't exist when you're playing against the Melville Millionaires. That's how they want to go up against you. They'll take away all your advantages in the style you play, and they'll completely turn them against you. And I believe in the Melville Millionaires. I think they're going to be a really tough out in the first round of the playoffs if they remain in there. Of course, there's a lot of hockey to be played, but just that trap, slow down what the other team does best, drag them into the mud, and then let's win a game. You can see that Melville's not blowing anyone out. I don't know if they have more than 2 or 3 times this whole season, but they also aren't getting blown out. You're going to get into a slow, gritty, tough-to-win hockey game. It's exactly the way they're playing it. It's hard. It's hard to go up against them, and I love it, because 3 straight wins, all against teams that are fighting to, make up ground. They didn't against Melville, and then they'll go up against the Humboldt Broncos tomorrow, another team that Melville has had great records against. It's crazy, man. Melville's the only team with a 500 or above record against all the top 4 teams. A winning record against Flin Flon, winning record against Battlefords, winning record against Melville, 500 record against Humboldt. If that doesn't show you that they take what you're best at and use it against you and get up for these big games, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. They suck you in. Doug Johnson, I'm sure, thrilled to win the Doug Johnson Cup there against the Nipawin Hawks. I'm sure whenever the Melville Millionaires and the Nipawin Hawks play each other, Doug Johnson, the former coach, of course, for Nipawin for a long time, has a special speech prepared. And Jaden Eogan, another shorthanded goal. He's only scores, half of his goals, I think, are shorthanded goals, which is pretty crazy. But, he's one of the good young players in our league, and looking forward to seeing him for years to come. But, you said it, and then last thing I'll say, again, you talked about the Melville Millionaires save their best for the best teams in the league. Ethan Rao saves some special nights for some special nights, 45 saves. Nipawin with a lot of good scoring chances in that game on Sunday as well. Outchanced Melville by quite a lot, actually. But Ethan Rao, just like he did up at the Whitney, shutting down the Bombers. Remember that months ago. He did it again to the Nipawin Hawks. And if you can figure out the Viterra division, then go to Vegas and make some bets.
No idea what's
because
happening.
nobody has any idea what's going on in the Viterra division.
Every week, some of the best headlines for me are coming out of that race in the 6 to 11 spot in the playoffs. And all of them pretty much are Viterra division teams.
Right.
But you guys are telling me that Doug Johnson is good at systematic hockey? What?
I know, big
breaking
surprise.
news.
Shocker.
Breaking
Shocker.
news.
Pretty much,
But Melville, fun team to watch this year. Rory, to your point, they are the second lowest scoring team on the year with 98 goals for as a team, only ahead of Notre Dame. So they do not outscore many teams. They do beat teams down in other ways.
One goal games, man.
One
goal games.
But I should say Bradley Bannock looked terrific right away there for Melville.
He was part of that trade.
Part of that trade with Weyburn. To come into, bunch of guys for the rights to Matthew Hodson, the longtime Victoria Royal, going to Weyburn. But Bradley Bannock inserted on the wing of that power play, sort of the key man on that Melville power play now, all of a sudden. And boy, does he look terrific. He looked terrific for Weyburn, actually coming back from his injury too. So not a big surprise, but a really dynamic individual into that Melville lineup.
So much of junior hockey is getting opportunities and taking advantage of them, and that's where you see a lot of some of the best players come from, is just getting opportunities. And Bradley Bannock has a great one at hand. Speaking of Weyburn, you mentioned them. Not so much rocking. The Weyburn Red Wings. What can we say about the Weyburn Red Wings?
Yeah, I mean, again, just like everybody in the Viterra, there's weeks where you're like, it's over, the playoffs are done, the season's kaputski, and then they have a great week. Oh, they're on fire, they're in flames, they're en fuego, it's going great, and then another tough week. And yeah, that was just a crazy one. And I know we'll get into Yorkton in a second. There's the highlights for the Yorkton game, but this was just crazy. Your typical junior hockey game, back and forth. The Weyburn Red Wings rally down from down 5-2 at home. You'll get to the highlights there, but Jeromy Maharaj, if he's not the one right now offensively making things happen for Weyburn, then who is making things happen for Weyburn right now? And I think that's a problem when you kind of have, I know that they got a lot of depth in terms of guys who are character and gritty and determined and good forecheckers and guys who can skate, and you go down the list. But in terms of that pure creative offense, Jeromy Maharaj is just so central to what the Weyburn Red Wings do. So there you go. We found a way. They scored 5 goals there against Yorkton, but the problem is the Yorkton Terriers scored 7. Jeromy Maharaj now on an 8-game point streak. The Weyburn Red Wings kind of live by that Mikkel John, Ruthven, Maharaj line and die by that line too. So it's kind of a tough way to go. We'll see. Nobody, again, can predict the Viterra division. I definitely can.
Yeah, well, a positive for the Weyburn Red Wings. You look at their schedule coming up. We talked about this prior to the Christmas break. 90% of their games weren't against the top 4. Mm-hmm. They've played those games against Battleford, Flin Flon, Melfort, and Humboldt. Couple left, of course, but most of them are against the teams that they are in the race with. Unfortunately, to come out of the Christmas break, they've lost 4 games in a row now. 1-4 since that Christmas break, and they're against those teams. So 24 goals allowed in those 4 games. That's too many. They're shorthanded more than anyone except for LaRange, but their differential in times of power play opportunities to time shorthanded is minus 41. Yeah. That's crazy, right? Like, so they're taking
too many. They have the
many
most penalty minutes in the league.
They're most penalty minutes on average per game. They're taking too many minors, obviously, not getting enough power plays. Not scoring the first goal a lot. So there's just a lot of things that got to be corrected. But again, when you're looking at the schedule, you're going to look at games like, okay, let's get up for this one. Let's play some playoff hockey because you can make up 4-point swings, 8-point swings on weekends in a hurry because they got a handful against Kindersley, handful against Melville, Yorkton, LaRange. All the teams there, that's who you're playing. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if you want to take a look at the standings right now and kind of just see what happened to the Yorkton Terriers in a matter of a weekend, they're out of the playoffs right now. Like, it's wild, and that's how it's going to be. So if you don't think that Weyburn's playing playoff hockey, I love how hard they work. They're a hard-working group, but they're just kind of not getting the results in certain areas. Penalties are a problem, and their starts are a problem. The second most first-period goals against in the league, and they've only scored the first goal 9 times. It's just, So.
It's not. I think the word you're looking for is it's not sustainable. But that being said, my last thing I'll say about the Weyburn Red Wings is that, they are a team that last year, this moment was when they really caught fire. Obviously, Riley Morgan's not here and Ty Mason are not here, but this is when they caught fire. So Cody Mapes said, go back read your words that you gave your team last year at this point and say that again, because we probably were saying the same things about Weyburn last year at this point.
And I think they were like 7 points out at that point, right? They might have been 11th.
They were out.
They were the biggest
out.
turnaround last year.
Yeah.
So they're in a better spot than they were last year. And you said it, schedule is much better, and they've played all those big teams already. So hey, no reason to panic if you're.
And again, a benefit for the Weyburn Red Wings is that from 5th place to 11th place, it's 7 points.
Wild.
Like you said, a good week could go a long way one way or the other for a lot of these teams.
You win 3 games in a row, and especially against the teams that they're going to be playing against, they could be in 5th. Like it's wild.
Doesn't take long.
So can I jump on the Yorkton point?
Yeah, I was just going to say, let's move on to Yorkton because they obviously faced Weyburn this weekend, and we'll get to something else. But go ahead. Yeah,
well,
Yorkton,
you mentioned there the standings. Like Yorkton, they felt like they were way out, and now they're knocking right on the door. And obviously, they've made lots of moves to bring in some veteran guys, Chuchunkov and Overbeek from the North American League, and some other guys. But great character they've shown so far in this year. Twice down 2 goals, and twice rallied to win it. And they were down 2-0 at home to Notre Dame to start the year as well, and they blew 3-1 and 5-2 leads in Weyburn on Saturday. Anthony Domina boys. Oh man, 6-point game. And you don't see that too many times. 9 points in 5 games for Domina in 2024. So again, he's a guy that we all kind of thought and saw had a lot of talent, and it just wasn't coming off for him. But he's 6'4", 205 with a lot of skill. So what's not to like there. Jaron Denwaye, he's really starting to get fire. I mean, he's been great all year for them since they acquired him from Fort McMurray. I think he's really, really underrated. I think if he's on the Terriers next year, I think he's the captain of the Yorkton Terriers next year. I would say that big prediction.
Big words.
Jaron Denwaye has been everything that the Yorkton Terriers had hoped and wanted, and a big piece, and they're showing a lot of character lately. Emery Olason finally has something going. Talk a lot about the Terriers. Late adding Emery Olason, obviously, in the offseason. A little bit predictable that they would have a slow start, but there's no starts now. Obviously, we're deep into the season, so they're starting to figure it out. They're starting to put it together. They got rid of some guys. They've added some guys, and it's been really working lately. So the Terriers are right in that playoff mix right now.
Now, I was kind of hoping, just before you get into it, Rory, because we'll come back to this in a sec, but I was kind of hoping that when you were talking up Jaron Denwaye so much that you would give me a perfect segue into the highlight of the week. Let's just have a look. Jaron Denwaye is the star of the show in this one.
Moldy, along with Domina at the draw. And oh my, what a goal that was from Jaron Desnoyers, falling to his knees, still stick handling and putting that one home. I hate to admit how pretty that one was, but that was absolutely gorgeous.
That was a very high level of skill.
Thank you to Tourism Saskatchewan, obviously, for sponsoring the highlight of the week. And not only did he win a physical battle off of a face-off, he was on one knee and he tucked it around the goalie. Not a bad highlight of the week. But Rory, you were going to get into something.
I just wanted to reiterate what you said off the bat and really give the Yorkton Terriers props on their character. Because, you trade away your captain, you trade away one of your best players in Dylan Ruptash, and you're sitting 8 points out, kind of what it was like. That could be a tough pill to swallow for a lot of players, especially young ones, coming in, especially 20-year-olds who maybe think this is their last year of junior A hockey. They have not given up. Their character, I applaud it. And they've won 3 out of 5 games. The only 2 games they lost since coming out of the break were against the Humboldt Broncos. They've beaten everyone else that they need to beat to get back in. I love their character. I love the fact that 2 really high talented players gone out, and the message wasn't, oh, we're selling it. Message was, there's a hole needs to be filled. Who's going to fill it? And those guys are doing it. I got to give the Yorkton Terriers props. They've fought their way back in. And they've been playing some really good hockey. So love the heart that they're showing everyone.
Yeah, one of the things I mentioned earlier, opportunity. You get a lot of great players from that. And so far for Yorkton, they have given some players some opportunity. And so far, in the last couple weeks, they've been running with it. So kudos to them. Let's look at L'Orange here. They are trying to climb back into the playoff race as well. They're not that far off. They're one of those teams that are in that bottom mix from 5 to 11. They got some goaltending recently, which we'll talk about later in the show. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. But L'Orange, they're trying to climb back in. What can we say about the Ice Wolves?
4-game road trip down in the south is never easy for L'Orange. Also, big-time props to Kevin Killer Kaminski, coaching on a walker. I think he had hip surgery.
Yes.
He's coaching there with a walker. What a nail gun. Oh, my goodness. So impressive. But they lost 2 games to Estevan. They beat Notre Dame and Weyburn in their rinks. And what's the big difference in those 2 games? They were the other teams were 3 for 7 in the games that they lost and 0 for 7 in the games they won. So there you go. Kill penalties. Larange, you talked about Weyburn taking way too many penalties. Well, Larange is taking way too many penalties all year,
192.
too. 192. But, a big piece of that, too, is they found something with Leighton Sheeran. He's really come back with a vengeance from his injury, 7 points in 6 games. And he's very often in games, you look at his face-off percentages, Leighton Sheeran's often over 60% on the face-off dot. That's so critical for him. And then you mentioned Topher Chirico, 105 saves on 111 shots over his 3 games. Eric Kale got the other one. Their recently acquired goaltender from the Estevan Bruins. They got in exchange there for Rain Hodge, the forward. But yeah, Topher Chirico's been unreal. Leighton Sheeran has really stepped up, as well as Dylan Handel. They've made some moves. We talked about other teams making moves, moving some guys out and bringing some guys in, changing things, shaking things up. And sometimes a road trip like this is what a team needs to really gel and come together at a key point. There's still Mason Buchert, there's still Jacob Cassette, there's still Parker Layton and Ryland Silzer, and there's plenty of things to like in the Larange lineup. But just got to find a way to grind out some more results. And they're still right in that crazy big playoff mix at the bottom.
Yeah, they've moved out, like you mentioned, Rain Hodge, Cale Taylor, Liam McInnes, and they're still fighting for a playoff spot. Like you said about Yorkton, it's kind of a similar thing with Larange, right? They sold some pretty good players, but they're also in a spot where they can still fight for that last spot, and I think they're going to. Given the fact that we know who their head coach is, I don't think he's going to be giving anybody a pass anytime soon.
No. They're going to be fighting, but the climb right now is like Mount Everest, just based off of games played. We looked at last year on the playoff line, 55 points was 8th place, right? 55 points got in. Larange has played 38 games. They only have 27 points, so they need 28 more, right? Yep. So they need 14 wins, but they only have 18 games remaining. Mm-hmm. That's what you're looking at, Larange. 14 wins, around that number in the last 18 games. Possible for a team like this, right? They can do it. But again, that is a tough climb.
Yeah, but only 5 points back. I mean, we can look at that number, and I think there's certainly value absolutely looking at that number. But for your Larange, you just got to take it in bite-sized pieces. Larange was one of the worst 3 teams in the league in terms of road wins. They only had 3 road wins before this road trip. Notre Dame and Kindersley still only have 3 road wins this year. So Larange was in that mix with 3 wins only on the road so far this year. They get 2 more on this road trip. They just gotta keep it going, and don't worry about what mark you need to get to. Just take care of tomorrow.
Just win. Exactly.
One game at a time.
I mean, with what the top 4 teams are doing, it's very well that playoff line number is lower.
Right.
Is lower. 49, 50 maybe, right? 6 points lower. So you're right. It could change that. Maybe they need 11 wins in the 18 games,
100%.
right? But
Speaking of the playoff line, one team that was under the playoff line last week and is now above it, Estevan, the Bruins. They've made some interesting additions over the last couple weeks. Not just trades, but some signings. Rory, what about Estevan?
Yeah, I loved it, and I got to start off with some Pappas Paropoulos, right? Get it out right out of the gate.
Pappas Paropoulos.
Everyone, when he was traded, they were all commenting, "Good luck, broadcasters," but I was going to say, "Good luck, oppositions," because Pappas Paropoulos comes in and he looks great. 2 points in his very first game. They kind of needed one more guy on that blue line to go with Felix Allard and.
3 points at Pappas Paropoulos.
Oh, 3 points in that game. Yeah, sorry. Even better. But this Estevan Bruins team's got talent. They just got to find a way to play a full 60 minutes a little bit more consistently. And they're a playoff team. They're a playoff team. I've seen them play live. I've seen them play their best hockey. And when they're playing their best hockey, they're a top 4 team in the league. They still are. I don't care that they're 15, 16, 0-2 and below 500. They just haven't been playing their best hockey. And I just don't know if they need a little bit more urgency. They need a little bit... more belief in themselves, a team, team players meeting only, right? Let's get this going. But getting Pappas Paropoulos in is really going to help, I believe, not only defensively, generate a little more offense. And they're going to be fine. If they finish in 5th at the end of the year, I'm not surprised.
And nobody's going to want to face them, too.
No.
I mean, I think the thing that I said before the season started when we were like, Estevan's a wagon, is they need some pure offense, some scoring. Alex Pappas Paropoulos from the Null, they're Terrific player. A lot of guys have left Amarillo in the NOLA, interestingly enough. As Papas Baropoulos is another one. He's the guy that Jason Tatarnik was able to watch at the Centennial Cup, of course, when he was with the Pickering Panthers of the OJHL a couple of years ago. So Nolan Cole and I, who called the Centennial Cup games there for Hockey Canada, were like, oh, this guy's back. Man, oh man. But anyways, yeah, terrific. And obviously add Raiden Hodge again to that. He's a guy who's on Team Neustradamus in the Fantasy Hockey League, by the way, is Rain Hodge. And two guys there that are just pure offense. Guys can score goals and create offense.
Yeah, he's also a forward. I said defenseman.
Yeah. So anyways, that's cool. And then, Ilya Chmielewski benefits because there's less impetus on him, and Keegan Little benefits, a little bit less offensive impetus on him. So everybody just kind of fits better into their role. Luke Rybinski on the back end comes in, long-time Western Hockey League defenseman, too, to shore that defense up that you were talking about. It's starting to come together for Estevan. I was never worried. I said it time and time again on the show. The Estevan Bruins are not going to be any fun in the second.
And also Jules Delapoulet.
Jules Delapoulet.
That was the defenseman I got confused with Papas Paropoulos, right? So
there you go.
one French, one Greek.
A lot of names.
One French, one Greek.
But the bottom line, two wins for Estevan, two big wins against L'Orange, right around each other in the bottom of that playoffs. And every game between two teams sort of in that bottom part of the standings are huge. Yeah.
Little extra.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, now I dubbed this the Saskatchewan Derby on Thursday, Humboldt and Melfort. A couple of big games for these guys. A couple coming up later in the season, SaskTel Game of the Month, maybe next month.
That's right.
But Humboldt and Melfort, what can we talk about with that, Rory?
It was kind of wild. And I mean, even the coaches, the players would agree that the Humboldt Broncos, I think, went from their absolute worst game of the season to their best game of the season in 24 hours. And, the performance in Melfort, they knew it was not good enough. Losing 5-2, they only had 10 shots combined between the first two periods, 4 in the second period, 6 in the first. That is not like the Humboldt Broncos. Melfort controlled, I want to say, 80% of puck possession in that game on Friday. It was a typical home Melfort game where they just looked really, really good and completely slowed down the Humboldt Broncos, taking away all opportunities. It was so bad that they actually did have a players-only meeting. Captains came in, they kind of talked, we can't play like this, because maybe they thought that type of game was creeping in, coming out of the break. They play Yorkton, they play Kindersley, team that are expected to beat. They go up against Melfort, and they weren't good, to say it not politely, I guess, but and then they come out on Saturday after that players-only meeting, and they were flying. It was a 60-minute clinic of skating, of physicality. Aiden Fisher with a 31-save shutout. He was brilliant, and that's the Humboldt Broncos that they need to play, because they were a much, much better team on Saturday. And I think if they could play that team, they believe that they have a team that can go up against anyone and bring home a championship. But it was a Jekyll and Hyde weekend, man.
Yeah. Anything?
Yeah,
to that, Jamie?
you said it all. Two games that had actually a lot of good scoring chances both ways. Two high-level hockey games, two high-level hockey teams coming from watching it from a third-party perspective. And both of these teams should be in the semifinals. I'd be stunned if both of these guys aren't. So. Good. Always good to see these two types of teams
might play each other in the semifinals.
Might each other, for sure.
Now, the one thing that we noted on Thursday when we did the trade deadline recap is these were two of the least active teams around the trade deadline. Melfort specifically, having not actually made a trade on the trade deadline or around the trade deadline, but they did add the Cox brothers.
That's right.
So that's one pickup for them. Yeah, exactly. They were able to add those guys, Logan and Danton, for nothing. So they did make a little bit of a move, but overall, two teams that we talked about as favorites, very comfortable with their rosters. Rory, would you agree with me that these two teams, they felt confident in their rosters and they wanted to go largely forward with the rosters that they had on?
Yeah, I think they're actually wanting to get their rosters back at full health and finally see, right?
Yes.
In the first game, the Broncos were missing 3 defensemen and had Dalen Weigel kicked out in the first 11 minutes of the game or whatever it was. So really tough on the blue line. They're also missing Matthew Van Blaircom. They haven't had Connor Toohey in a few weeks. So they want to get back to full health. And the Melfort Mustangs, we already know they can't wait for Ryan Duguay to come back.
Yes.
They can't wait for David Ryu to come back.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't know the extent of it, but Leith Olofsson only played 7 minutes in the first game, and then he didn't play in the second game. So again, if he's gone for an extended period of time, that's probably the biggest loss the Melfort Mustangs could ever, imagine, as he's their guy on the blue line, power play quarterback, one of the best defensemen in the league. But I just think they're really, really happy with their rosters. They just want to see him at full strength and see what they can do.
Yeah, for sure.
And keep Zach Summers healthy. He's had a hard time staying healthy all year. I mean, you go down the list. I mean, you throw Danton Cox on your middle or bottom pairing for the Melfort Mustangs too. And Trevor Blevins thinks his bottom 4 D-men are really underrated in the league. So, Ben, oh man, yeah.
Cole Unger impressed me actually on the weekend. You mentioned
he can
a guy
skate,
like that.
for
Cole
sure.
Unger was fantastic.
Yeah, really underrated.
Yeah.
So.
Jamie, we're going to throw it to you now. Obviously, outside of the bus problems that the Notre Dame Hounds had, there was maybe a couple problems on the ice here. What can we tell you about Notre Dame? And then we have everyone's favorite segment after
Nugs
that.
and
So
notes. I'll just go right into Nugs and notes.
Okay.
Just quickly, I think two really good performances for the Notre Dame Hounds. If I'm being honest, like the Hounds dominated the Battleford's North Stars in the first period in Battleford. You don't see this North Stars team get dominated in their own barn too often in any kind of a period, but the Hounds were all over them. Logan Cunningham was phenomenal. Actually, the Hounds ran into 2 Logans over the weekend that were terrific in net. Logan Cunningham for Battlefords and Logan Falk for Kindersley the night before. And just, no bounce going Notre Dame's way. And then, they have a 2-0 lead in both games, and they give up that 1 goal that they wish they hadn't. And then all of a sudden the slope kind of goes and falls on them. But they've added guys back from injury, guys back from the Western Hockey League, obviously in Van Egger. And I think they're playing a lot better hockey the last 6 of the last 7 games. I think the Hounds have played very, very well. Just no bounce, and that just seems like the way it is when you're a team that's struggling to find wins. You're looking for that bounce at the right moment, that save at the right moment, and you don't seem to get it. And you get penalties called against you, but maybe you just don't agree with. But there's nothing you can do about that. All you can do in that moment is buckle down and kill that penalty, and the Hounds weren't able to do it. And that shows the character of the Kindersley Clippers and the Battleford North Stars too, that they were able to, even though that they were kind of being outplayed in the first half of both games, to kind of dig deep and find a way. And something about the Hounds that gets Alex Isaac going every single time. He's got, I think, 10 goals on the year and 6 of them against Notre Dame. Kind of a Steve Kesslering situation going on, because Kesslering also dominated the Hounds. But as I said, like the performance was really good for the Hounds over the weekend, but just the results not there. The Hounds got a point from the overtime loss on the big shot by Talon Helbig in overtime. But I think Brett Pilkington's starting to see some progress, at least in his performance, and hopefully, if you're a Notre Dame fan, some results will follow. So there you go.
Jamie, Nugs and notes.
Nugs and
Ron
notes.
McLean'd it.
There
Nugs
you
and
go.
notes.
There you go. I'll keep it. I'll try to keep it quick here.
No, we got some time.
The sponsor is Sask Milk, established in 2011 as a producer of, I think they make cars. No.
Chevrolet.
Yeah, they make cars. Sask Milk, they were, as a producer, marketing board under the Agri-Food Act in 2004. Their general role and responsibility is to design and implement dairy policies and programs for the benefit of producers and other industry stakeholders. So great partner for the SJ. We really appreciate them. Back in 2018 at the SJMJ Showcase, there were big crates full of milk to give away to the kids at the Be Kind online game there that Sastel was part of, and I stole a whole large amount of milk that I stole and took down to Wilcox and gave to Notre Dame Junior Hounds players. I think
they went on a huge winning streak after
probably, and the statute of limitations is done on that, so I cannot be prosecuted for my dangerous actions. All right, moving on. NHL released its Central Scouting midterm list.
Yes.
Last week for the draft in Vegas this summer. Obviously, Matthew Van Blaricom of the Humboldt Broncos, congratulations, 150th among North American skaters. And Pavel McKenzie, of course, really, really good rookie for the Yorkton Terriers last year. Now with the Moose Jaw Warriors, he was also 170. So kudos to those guys.
Having a nice
awesome
season for the
see
Warriors
if
too,
Matthew
by the way.
Van, very good season.
Yep.
You get to watch the Moose Jaw Warriors a lot, obviously, with your role with IKS. So very cool. And hopefully Matthew Van Blaricom, that'd be so awesome to see him get drafted out of the SJHL. That would be awesome.
And Scott Barney tweeted about that as well, saying the sky's the limit for this kid. And you've been saying it all year, of course.
Yeah.
But it really is really great.
I
to
won't
see
be
him.
surprised at all if he hears his name.
Yeah, and he showed it at the World
surprised.
Junior A Challenge that he's as good as any.
Led the
any
team in
kid
goals.
these days. Yeah, he's terrific.
Exactly.
So there you go. Congratulations to those two. Flin Flon cannot finish below Notre Dame in the standings, so we have something solidified in the standings. They cannot finish last, so we know for sure in the standing that Flin Flon cannot finish 12th.
So they'll be at least 11th or better.
We know something 100% based on the stats.
There's a huge sigh of relief coming from
I know,
Flin Flon
Mike
Manitoba
Reagan,
today.
it'll be okay. You won't finish 12th. Flin Flon will not be picking first in the next SJHL draft.
Well, they could still make a trade or something.
There's some news. No, they cannot. Oh, they can make a trade.
They can make a
that's
trade or
true. That's a good point. But it won't be there. All right,
enough.
and then the last thing I'll say is that Sask Finest coming out on Wednesday, and I definitely included it specifically in this one because I want to shout out Paul Raycroft, who is the topic of Sask Finest, who refereed his last game as an SJHL ref between Humboldt and Melfort. Obviously, he lives in Humboldt, and interestingly enough, Paul Raycroft's last SJHL game and his first SJHL game, both the same teams, Humboldt and Melfort. Both
cool.
games back in 2014 was his first game as an official in the SJ was Humboldt and Melfort too. So there you go, Paul Raycroft. Thank you for your service. And Wednesday at noon, make sure you check out Sask Finest.
Usually you just give a teaser of what Wednesday's article is.
But I wanted to shout out Paul specifically.
Yeah.
So thank you, Paul, for all your service.
Fair enough. Well, that does it for news and notes and our first segment of the day. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Notre Dame Hounds defenseman Vincent Palmarin will be joining us. Stay tuned.
It's the 2023 model clearout at Capital GMC. Drum roll, please. 0% financing is back. For a limited time, finance rates are as low as 0% on select new 2023 GMC Sierras. CapitalGMC.ca.
Connecting with customers can be tough, but it doesn't have to be. At Direct West, we have the marketing tools and expertise to help introduce your business to the masses and help it grow. Connect with more customers. Direct West.
As a student, things can pile up fast. Ouch. But the RBC Student Banking Bundle makes back to school easier with up to $275 in value. That's a whole pile of takeout.
Today, online bullying is more common than ever, but there is help. SaskTel wants to solve this problem. It's why they created Be Kind Online. If you're a victim of online bullying or know someone who is, or even if you just want to stop it from happening to anyone, this is a place to learn what you can do. You can find lots of tools and tips to help you stand up to cyberbullying. Be Kind Online is a place to learn how to stay safe as well, to learn best practices and plans to stop cyberbullying before it even has a chance.
Original 16. Celebrate things done well.
Sask Energy Network members are the best choice for natural gas solutions for your home or business. With comprehensive services like heating equipment maintenance, appliance installation, and in-store financing, they have natural gas solutions that go beyond heating to bring you the comfort, efficiency, and reliability of natural gas, both indoors and outdoors, all year long. For whole home natural gas solutions, network members burn brighter.
All right, right, welcome back into SJHL Weekly. Again, if you're freaking out right now because I am not Jeromy Corrigan, my apologies. Jeromy Corrigan is ill. He is getting better. He is on the mend, and he will be back in the saddle probably Thursday for SJHL Insider, but definitely next week for SJHL Weekly. But we are going out on the phone lines now to be joined by Notre Dame Hounds defenseman Vinnie Palmerine. Vinnie, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, this is breaking news, and we haven't done the segment yet where we release the rosters for the SJHL MJHL Showcase. But if you haven't heard, and I think you might have, but congrats on being named to the 18 and under roster for the SJHL. First of all, what does that mean to you to be added to that roster?
Yeah, I mean, it means a lot to be added. I'm a second year in a row as a 18 under, but yeah, I mean, it just kind of keeps me confident, keeps me going, you know. Just means a lot that I still have a lot to give in this game, and yeah.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Vinnie. Obviously, people can see behind you. There's you're in the rink lobby. There's all these plaques with all the great players over the time there at Notre Dame. What's the picture that I guess that you see? You're like, oh, that guy's Notre Dame. That's cool. Like, who's your favorite Hound of all time?
I think it would be probably Vincent Palmarin. I mean, iconic enough as I have the same name as him. But yeah, I mean, he was probably the one that he was basically like my role model of ND. I mean, my parents knew him pretty well. I'm pretty sure he lived in my dad's house when he first came to ND. But yeah, that would probably be him.
My favorite Hound, guys, just to cut you off, Scott Monroe, my brother. He's in the stairwell going down the ramp there in the back. So that's my favorite. Yeah. Anyways, go ahead, guys.
Hey, Vinny, just for people that don't know, obviously you're from Wilcox. You're a local, boy playing for your local team. Just what's that kind of mean to you? I know we're going to talk a little bit about being the community ambassador, but just being able to put on that jersey each and every day that you grew up watching, maybe not Vinnie Lecavalier, would have been a little bit before then, but, grew up watching a bunch of these, great players play for that organization, and now you're one of them.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it means a lot to me to wear this crest every day. I mean, it's probably my 6th year wearing it. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it leaves me kind of speechless, but it's just like the support and love that this community and the school shows me is just what keeps me going, and it's what keeps me grateful about this place as well. So, yeah.
Vinny, we're in the unofficial second half of the season now. The trade deadline is behind us. Your roster is more or less set. And, Jamie was talking about how on-the-ice performances have been solid. The results just haven't been there so far in the last couple of games. Can you talk about your team's on-ice play lately and maybe some of the vibes around the locker room?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, just like Nugi has been saying, we've had the last couple of games we've actually played well, or we've outperformed the opposition for the majority of the game, just like in Belfort. But it's just that 60 minutes is just the challenge right now, and I think we can do it. Obviously, we can play with Belfort. We can really play with anyone in this league. We just have to want to play like it. And, yeah, I mean, the boys in the dressing room, I think they all understand what's at stake, but it just goes back to that playing a full 60 minutes, and, it's tough when you got to play those 3 and 4 or 4 and 5s, and the body's just not feeling it. But those are the games that you just have to get through it. So,
Just a two-part question for me quickly then, Vinny. Obviously, you've had some great vet defensemen to be around, to think about, Jared Sitch and Sam Kroon and all the things you could have learned from those guys. And then obviously you got a young 06 birth year defenseman there along with you, and Carter Hines. Have you kind of taken him under your wing in the same way? Or are there any kind of things that you've taken maybe from that you learned from Kroon and Sitch and Vanden Heuvel when he was back there, and whatever the list goes on, Liam Hunks, that you're trying to like impart onto him?
Yeah, I would say I probably took up Sitch's role, and Heinze took my role from last year. So, yeah, I mean, playing last year was a really great opportunity. Obviously, playing with those old defensemen like Kroon, being a 20-year-old, Sitch as well. Just playing with them really showed me how smart you have to think, even not so playing very skilled in that sense, just being more simple and smart about it. So that's what I've just been trying to pass on to Heinze as we get through this rest of the season, just to keep it simple.
Do you look at a player like that, as Nukes, you mentioned 2006 birth year? What do you kind of feel the ceiling is for a young player? I mean, yourself and him, you're 05, he's 06. It seems like the ceiling's sky high for both of you.
Yeah, I mean, we have still a couple of years of junior left, so really nothing to really stress about. So, I mean, just take it one day at a time and just follow the path ahead.
Do you feel that this year for yourself, you can look at it as a positive because, the team, yes, it's below the playoff line. You got to step up, kind of be a leader in your second year with the team, but you've also battled a little bit of injuries, right? So you've had a lot of adversity. What do you think that's going to do just for, your mental side of the game to be able to get through all this adversity and set you up for future success? Do you kind of look at everything as a positive like that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've had to deal with a lot of injury this year. And, when you get injured at first, you're not really in the right mind. You're a little frustrated, a little angry at yourself. But, I mean, it's just another thing that you just got to get past. And it's just another skill you can add to your toolbox when you get through it, is that you already know how to run into this stuff and just be ready to deal with it when it happens the next time, which is actually what I'm doing right now, because I can't really stay healthy during this season. I don't know what it is, but I mean, yeah, just keeping a positive mind, because I really think your mental side of it is a big factor in the healing process and getting back on the ice. So yeah, that's where I'm just kind of at.
Now, speaking of positivity, Vinnie, one of our favorite community engagement things that we do throughout the season in the SJHL is the RBC Community Ambassador Program, and you've been named as the representative for the Notre Dame Hounds. As a hometown boy, what does it mean for you to be nominated as the Hounds rep this season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it means a lot to be the RBC ambassador of my community. I mean, like I said before, it's just the love and support that I get from this place. I mean, I've been here for 15 years, so it means a lot. Obviously, just seeing some of the little kids from the little school come out to games and watch, and even just the high school that I was a part of last year come out and watch and support me. It just means a lot. So, yeah.
For sure. Last one from me, Vinny, from a totally serious question there to maybe a slightly less serious question. Well, I guess it's serious. Obviously, we had a great time on the bus there on the way home. What did you kind of do were you asleep the whole time as we were freezing and we didn't get back to Wilcox till 4 a.m? Or, what did you do over that whole time? We were just sitting on the highway for a long time. And then how has your last 24 hours been trying to sleep it off and whatever, because it was a crazy time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very nuts. I mean, for it to be like minus 40 out and just break down on the side of the road like that, I mean, I wasn't really surprised, honestly. I mean, the day was just kind of, it was just rolling like that. But I kind of had to deal with Heinze because, Heinze's he's a newfie, so he doesn't really think a lot, so he didn't even bring a jacket. So. And Dokes was like, okay, the boys with proper winter gear, you load the bus, and then Heinze was just sitting there in a t-shirt. So I mean,
yeah,
DJ kind of had to help him out with giving some extra clothes, but I mean, it's always great to have fun like that with the boys. I mean, that's what it's all about, just all that stuff with the team. It's great.
You know what? He'll never forget a jacket ever again. That's a life lesson.
Oh, he will.
There's a learning.
He'll forget.
There's a learning curve on the ice and also just off the ice. Getting, Saskatchewan winters. It's a learning curve. I got a couple of rapid fire questions for you, Vinny. Showcase is coming up. One defenseman in the league on the Young Guns team that maybe you'd like to partner up with. I don't know if you know the teams yet, but someone else outside of the Notre Dame that you're like, yeah, I'd like to be his D partner for the Showcase?
I'd probably say Buckberger on Nipawin. I mean, he's very skilled as an 06 as well. Very skilled, very offensive, can move the puck very well. I mean, yeah, I'd love to partner up with him. I think he plays a great game, and I think I also play a great defensive game. So, I mean, I think we could do a lot of work.
That's a solid pick, and I can almost guarantee that he's probably on the team. So you might get that opportunity. What about a dream NHL defenseman that if you could pluck from the NHL and bring to the SJHL Showcase, who would you want to partner up with?
Oh, that's actually a tough one. I'd probably go with Hedman on Tampa. I mean, not to be biased, I mean, Tampa's my team, but Hedman's just an all-around stud. I mean, just very intellectual, skate well, can shoot the puck. But, I mean, I think what I look for in a D partner is more so just IQ over everything, IQ and communication. I think if you have those two keys, then you can really do a lot of work. So, yeah.
How about, so I mean, we mentioned you're from Wilcox. You grew up, watching the Notre Dame Hounds every chance you could get. Who's a player that, you've watched, maybe even when you were 6 or 7 years old, that you just thought was special wearing a Notre Dame Hound jersey? Or maybe it's one that you've played with since you've started playing hockey there.
Yeah, I think it would go so. I mean, like when I was a kid, I always watched the Hounds play, the juniors play a lot. I mean, I didn't really know a lot of the guys, but I think more recently, I think two of those guys would probably be Jared Sitch and Kev Anderson. I mean, over the past 4 years, I got pretty close with them over the summers, just training together, working out together, and to know them better. And then, I mean, I didn't play with Kev, but I watched him when I was in high school. I admired him a lot. And then going back to last year playing with Sitch, I mean, he's an all-around just great player, and you can't really get any better. So,
all right, well, Jared Sitch, Alexander Hollins, who has a heavy shot, or your own shot. Which one are you not wanting to step in front of and block?
How would he step in front of his own shot?
Well, just on paper.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't want to step in front of Holland's shot just because he tends to shoot high, and last year.
Yeah, he can't hit what he's shooting.
Smart.
That's true.
You can put Carter Hines in front of that shot.
I want to get another.
Well, Vinny, thank you so much for joining us today. Awesome chat, and I hope he's still with us and he could still hear us. Maybe he disconnected, but that was Vinnie Palmerine.
Yeah.
Great interview with him, and look forward to seeing him at the SJMJ Showcase. And again, like he said, hopefully he can stay healthy and stay on the ice. Always key. We are going to take one more break, and when we come back, Players of the Week, we're going to break those down. The rosters that everyone's been waiting for, the 18 and unders and both of the 20 and under rosters will be revealed for the first time publicly, and we'll look ahead to the rest of the week. So join us after the break.
The Chevrolet Silverado 1500. Advanced power and capability to tackle the long hauls. Style to make a statement on the streets. Visit ChevroletOffers.ca to learn more.
Increase your home comfort with high-efficiency natural gas equipment. Sask Energy offers rebates so you can lower your energy use and save money. For a list of rebates, contact a participating network member or visit saskenergy.com.
When you buy a lottery ticket in Saskatchewan, your money really goes a long way. More than 12,000 sport, culture, and recreation groups receive funding from Sask Lotteries every year. Everyone wins.
Thanks for helping me out and trying to protect me today. It's the kind of thing that, somebody comes out who's not ready, not prepared, and put into an awkward situation without somebody taking leadership and saying, hey, I'm going to protect you. It's going to shorten people's careers. And that's a big reason why we exist and, what drives us to do what we do.
They know how important their role is in the community, being a good leader, showing kids that there is a right and a wrong way to do things and leading the right way, being a positive role model to not just kids in the community, but anybody in the community.
Coach said a lot of great things that are really consistent with the values that we have at the SCSA and, respect for those around us, respect for those that we work side by side with, leadership and part of that is being innovative and collaborative and solving problems together. Really, the last one that you touched on was integrity. Doing what's right and doing it the right way. And those things just yield incredible results, not just in terms of making things safe, but really being productive and striving, whether it be in a game or in your life or in your business.
I think absolutely we try and fill the roles of all those values and just try to be the best people we can, really, not only for ourselves, but for our teammates and for the community around us.
Have a lot of fun today. Thanks, guys.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Original 16. Celebrate things done well.
Saskatchewan's far north is where the land itself inspires. It's the beauty and power of wilderness, the solitude of a place far removed from what you might know. When this landscape surrounds you, it's like nothing else. Come and let it awaken you, energize you. Come and create your story in our Northern Lights and Waterways. Saskatchewan.
All right, welcome back to segment 3 of SJHL Weekly. I, again, am Clark Monroe, filling in for the wonderful, great Jeromy Corrigan here on the show today. We've had a great show so far, and we have some great stuff to get into, so let's not waste any time. We're going to go to the Players of the Week, which are being announced online in a few minutes here, but you got the inside scoop. Let's start out with the MVP of the week, and we talked about this team a little bit and this player a little bit earlier in the show. From the Yorkton Terriers, Anthony Domina had a big couple of games. Jamie, do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, six points in that wild one against Weyburn, and 6'4", 205, talented kid, big shot. What do you want?
Yeah, absolutely. Big couple games in Yorkton. We'll see what they can do in the next couple weeks. We're going to move on now to the, sorry, that was for SGU. I don't know if I mentioned that. SGU MVP of the week. The Borgo Forward of the week. We are going to go to, sorry, I forgot. I'm blanking. Keegan Little. I made these graphics. I should know who these players are. No, sorry, I had a little brain fart there. But Keegan Little, again, a couple of great games from the Bruins, and he was a big part of it.
Yeah, he was a huge part of it. 20-year-old driving force of the Estevan Bruins top line. There was some chatter that trade deadline might Keegan Little be on the move. I'm so glad they kept him, and now look at what he's doing. It's paying dividends, and he's going to have to be great moving forward. And Estevan is going to, prove to be that they aren't a playoff line team. They're going to need Keegan Little to prove that.
Yeah. Moving on to the Defenseman of the Week as we stay in Estevan, Felix Allard. Again, an important couple of games from him, Jamie.
Yeah, you know what? As inconsistent as the Bruins have been this year, Felix Allard has been very consistent all year long. If there's one Bruin that has been consistent, it's probably Felix Allard. 4 assists in those games against L'Orange, 2 big wins. It's more important even. And with Rybinski back there, he's got another big piece with him. So there you go.
Moving on to the Cantera Seeds Saskatchewan-born Player of the Week, and that is going to be Spencer Bell of Rory's Humboldt Broncos. Not only has he been great all year, but he's had a couple, 3 great games this week.
Yeah, 3 great games this week. And the past month and a half, he's just absolutely exploded. He's now 3rd place in SJHL scoring with 50 points on the year. And we all left him off our fantasy squad.
Yeah.
So what he's doing is really, really special, and he's found that next level to his game. He's been the best Bronco in the last 2 months.
Yeah, speaking of fantasy squads, Allard and Little are on my team,
That's
so
right.
great week from my squad. Let's move on to the SaskTel goalie of the week. We mentioned him earlier, Topher Chirico, 105 saves in 3 games. Jamie, decent week for the goaltender up in La Ronge.
Yeah, really happy for Topher. Saw him in Wilcox. Obviously, he was phenomenal. Their 946 save percentage. What best can you do? If there was one guy in the league that we all thought this guy is probably better than what his first half showed, Topher would be one of those guys, and he's started to turn it on here for La Ronge. His partner there, Carl Sonneff, has departed. He's got a youngster now in Eric Kale with him, but he looks awesome, just Topher. He did on this road trip, and just that loss against Estevan. Otherwise, he was great against Weyburn and Notre Dame.
Yeah, heavy workload for him as well. And we're going to stay in the net for our Direct West Rookie of the Week and go back to Humboldt as Aiden Fisher, who, Rory, you have said several times, has had a really solid season as a backup goaltender for Humboldt. A great game, got a shutout. What can you say about Aiden Fisher?
They got 2 that they love right now, and Aiden Fisher is one of the most athletic goaltenders the Broncos have seen in their past few years. He's fast twitch in the net. He makes the save. He's stand up for a 925 save percentage. That's second in the league when you look right now. He's part of the qualified goalie group after now playing 725 minutes. He's second place in save percentage. He's tied for first in shutouts now with 2, which is actually quite low. I think we had to buy it or sell it for shutouts before the season started. I think we said it at like 5.5.
Well, last year's was 5, right? I think how many did Herdlicka have?
might have had 6. Or
might have
the year
had 6
before, year before Cal Shell had him 7. So only 2. 4 goalers are tied with that, and Fisher's one of them.
Well, we're going to have to get a big half out of these goalies, big second half out of these goalies.
I forget if we took the over or the under for shutouts prior to the season, but
now is that because we talked about how good the goalies were across the league this year, and they are. But is that a goalie thing, or is that just because scoring is up this year and there's so many good scorers in this league this year?
Yeah,
a bit of both, maybe.
Yeah, I think. How do I say
that's
this
a whole nother topic we just added to the show.
I think some goalies have been disappointed maybe with their first halves, but certainly there's second half to come, and second half is when it matters.
Yeah, the hockey usually gets a little bit tighter.
Teams are tighter. Teams are more in tune with their systems.
Yeah,
getting shutouts is hard.
It's very hard.
It's hard to do.
All it needs is one shot. It's over. So.
Yeah, pucks are weird.
They're made of
rubber.
Cody Jamin, Aiden Fisher, Justin Merrick also had 2 before going back to the WHL. So now just 33 goalies tied for
Cody Jamin had 2 shutouts and 3 starts over a stretch there too.
Noted Weyburn Red Wing Justin Merrick. After the trade
deadline. He's right.
Now, here it is. We are going to do it now. The roster reveals. This is the moment that these guys have been waiting for.
We don't even know.
I got to check them out earlier, so I got a bit of a sneak peek. But let's have a look at the 18 and under team at this year's showcase. I'm not going to go through all of these names name by name, guys, but and again, these are not the lines, these are not the defensive pairings, these are not the way the goalies will be ran out in terms of starters and backups. Those are the coaches, though. Head coach and assistant coach, Scott Barney and Tad Kozin for the under-18 team. Guys, I'm just going to let you kind of go off on these rosters. Jamie, I'll start with you because you looked at me first. What can you say? Maybe you take the forwards, Jamie, and I'll let Rory take the defense and the goalies.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, interesting to see Jacob Stritzy there, just acquired from the OJHL's North York Rangers. Scott Barney getting an extra pick in there, and I think Jacob's going to be pretty good for Humboldt, but interesting to see him in there. But yeah, I mean, what more do you want? Obviously, I thought it was really important to get the Perlingers in there, no matter what, the 07 birth years, the twins out of Kindersley there, so that's good to see. And Cade Mickeljohn, talk about recency. I mean, his second half of the first half has been really hot. So getting there, jumping in, and doing well for Weyburn on their big line. Very interesting. Lots of speed and skill and talent on that group. And there's some guys that I'm surprised that aren't in there. But
who do you think's the biggest omission right now up front?
I need to think about it, but I mean, as I said, it would be hard to
Eric Hoynes maybe off of Nipalin.
I need to look at my rosters again, but just in general, obviously lots and lots of skill in the SJHL and lots of good young players. Overall, I think again hard to get it wrong. Maybe Luke Beadall. I know you have already 2 Melville millionaires in there. But there you go. Again, you talk about the D-men, difficult not to see like Austin Oshovy or Carter Hines, but I'll let you take the D. But again, you can't go wrong with the guys that are there. I think Rylan Williams is maybe as underrated as any player in the SJHL. So great to see him there. I am interested to see that Jacob Stritzy is in there, given that he's hardly at all played in the SJHL. But what can you do?
Stritzy's the biggest kind of shock value for me, I guess. They consider what he did in 2 years in the OJHL, 84 games and 85 points, so point per game already in a good sample size. But it is interesting to me to see him only playing 3 games in the SJHL and then getting the call.
Yeah. Carson Dick of
Estevan would be a big one. And then on the blue line, I mean, you knew this was going to be a talented group as ever, and you knew that it was going to be 1 or 2 studs that are being left off, and it's Austin Oshovy and Carter Hines. Just on the outside looking in as they kind of lean towards Anthony McIntosh, Landon Pappas, and Vinnie Palmerine in there, because I think Ben Costantino, Carson Olsen, and Ronan Buckberger are shoo-ins. They're getting in. So, unfortunate for Oshovy and for Hines, but I love this decor.
You can't go wrong,
I love this decor right now. And the 2 goalies, we both had those 2 on our mock list. There's just no other young goaltenders that can compete right now with what Fisher and Marquardt are doing as 05 birth years.
Yeah. And I love how you have like a Vinnie Palmerine and an Anthony McIntosh that are not all. They don't have to be the flashiest 6 guys either. Like, you've got a good mix of grit and determination and guys who can mix it in, and Constantino can play any way you want to. So very, very good decor. Can't complain about it.
Well, Palmerine says he likes to have a D partner that has high IQ. Doesn't need to be the flashiest guy. Just wants to be the smartest guy. Anthony McIntosh plays a really smart style game.
Yeah, and again, these aren't the official pairs and all of that, but it is fun to think about.
We'll take care of that.
It is fun to think about lines. That's one of my favorite things to do in hockey, is just contemplate lines and combinations and all those things. Let's have a look now. This is the official reveal of both. They're side by side here. Both under 20 rosters for the tournament. Now, you're gonna have to. I'm gonna give you guys some time. I'm gonna chat about this one. Obviously, Braden Klamosko and Trevor Blevins are coaching team number 1. They don't have official names yet, but they'll probably be given some designated names as we get closer to the tournament. Mike Reagan from Flin Flon and Doug Johnson from Melville are the coaches of team number 2 as it's being designated right now. You see on either side of the rosters here kind of a split of the teams. You guys talked about it last Monday when you did your predictions. They usually split up the teams in certain ways so that certain teammates are playing with each other. However, you do see, I did notice that Benjamin Motiu is on team number 1 and most of the Broncos are on team number 2, for example. That is something I noticed earlier when I was looking at it. And also they split up some of the Nipawin Hawks as well. You got Braxton Buckberger on team 1 and Liam McInnes on team 2. So there are some splits in that regard. But for the most part, they kept a lot of the teammates together. Another one, Linklater and Hilbig got split up. They've been the dynamic pairing in Kindersley for most of the year. But let's get into it, gentlemen. Jamie, maybe I'll get your opinion on team number 1 for the most part. And obviously, Rory, you can chime in at any time. But what do you guys think of team number 1?
Yeah, I mean, the big name to jump out to me, first of all, is Ryan Duguay. Like, is he healthy enough to play? Will he be healthy by then? I hope so. If not, if he is healthy, then he should be there, even based on the body of work before he got hurt. He's such a premium player.
Yes, of course, there will probably be some injury replacements, and we can get into that as well as we go. But.
It's interesting to see that Tylen Hilbig made it, and then Linklater's on the other team. I think that's also pretty interesting. But yeah, you have the big line for Battlefords. You got a big line for Melfort. Not a big surprise. That decor is nails. Lots of chemistry between Isaac and Gold and Olofsson and Freetmore. You love to see that ready-made chemistry in a short event too. And hard to argue with the year that Venn and Motiu are having in the sticks. So yeah, I think they probably nailed that team pretty well, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, Rory, any thoughts on team 1, or if you want to dive into team 2, maybe?
I'll just go right to team 2. Obviously, they did split up the top 4 teams, which we also did on our mock. So one of them gets Battlefords and Melfort, the other one gets Flin Flon and Humboldt. I love this forward lean. They're physical, they're fast. Justin Lees, Alexei Sylvester, Carter Anderson. They'll probably play on a line together, and same with Bell Bryson and Newlands is going to be my guess. But interesting to see that Motu's not playing with his fellow Broncos, and Laserhume and Cunningham are as good as any 2 goaltenders in the league, so they won't have a problem in net. Physical defenseman in McNutt, physical, good skating defenseman in Weagle, offensive guys in McInnes and Allard and Toohey. I really like this team. Obviously, Keenan Ingram with that late trade, I think he makes the team if he's still in the SJHL. So I'm trying to find who's the guy that maybe got the call up in. Maybe Anthony Piccinino it is with the Flin Flon Bombers getting the extra one.
There are a lot of Bombers. I mean, of course, they're very good.
Yeah, they should. They should get the most players. They're in first place in the league. They've only lost 4 games and twice in regulation. So I don't have anything wrong with that. But I'm just trying to find out if, Ingram's not in there, there's going to be one extra one in. So.
Well, my only thing here, again, I don't want to be a moaner because I do love these teams. I think these are 2 great teams. And again, there's so much talent in this league that you could put a lot of team players in there and they would still be very competitive. Like, where are the Yorkton Terriers? Like, I think like Anthony Demina and Jaron Denoyer, like these are guys that I thought really maybe deserved to get a close look. You think about what Alex Bernauer did, maybe even like a Chase Visser or something like that on Nipowin Hrabovetsky, the Ukrainian forward. I mean, you bring in Stritzy for a couple games and he plays, and then whatever. I don't want to be hammering it too much. Again, like I don't have anything against the guys that were actually picked. I think it's cool. Again, you got the chemistry of McNutt and Houle and the chemistry of Tui and Weagle. Will Tui be healthy enough?
That's another one.
We're also talking about it too, where we're seeing these lists now, but they could change because the tournament's at the end of the month. So you could have some guys in. Even Vinnie Palmerine is dealing with a bit of an injury knock right now too. So should be interesting to see how the rosters compare to what we're just looking at. But overall, again, no knocking against anybody. Every single one of those guys deserve to be there. But just, it's our job to ask a few questions and to give a few thoughts.
I would think Denoyer, and Anthony Demina have to be right on the bubble right now. Yeah. They're 2 big omissions for the Yorkton Terriers. Every team, got 2 players in, and I guess they went David Coyle with the season he's had, split between Melfort and Yorkton, and then Anthony McIntosh, I love, on the Young Guns team. Those are Yorkton's 2 representatives. But could have Demina or Denoyer been on the team? Absolutely. They're both over a point per game players. So there is going to be big omissions, especially in that veteran team, the 2 veteran teams. But I got to think Demina and Denoyer have to be right there on the bubble. So if there is an injury, one of those guys is getting in.
And Jeromy Denoyer is the lone member of the top 20 scorers list that is not on a roster. Yeah. So again, there will be some changes to that as injuries happen and things happen along those lines. So stay tuned to SJHL Weekly and SJHL Insider because we will keep you guys up to date as those changes happen or get announced. So we do have a week ahead of us, gentlemen. There are games coming up in the next couple of days and later in the week. So let's have a look at Tuesday's schedule now. Obviously, Humboldt is going to be in Melville. You mentioned that, Rory, earlier in the show. Weyburn taking on Notre Dame.
Assiniboia.
Yes.
The neutral site game.
There are quite a few neutral site games.
The Kindersley games in Rosetown also.
Yes, there are 2 neutral site games tomorrow on Tuesday. I failed to mention that, but yes. The Weyburn Notre Dame game is neutral site, and Estevan and Kindersley is also a neutral site game.
So it's going to be tough for me to get an out-of-town scoreboard while I'm calling the Melville game.
Well, you can just text me. Right?
Yeah, you're gonna have to come up with some other intermission content, Rory. Let's move on to Wednesday here now because there are a couple of games, including the rescheduled Nipawin versus Flin Flon game, and Estevan is going to head up to Battlefords to take on the North Stars. So, gentlemen. Obviously, that is 2 days of the week. There are other days later in the week as well. What do you guys have your eyes on and your ears on the ground to coming up this week? Because there are some things going on.
Go ahead, Nukes.
Yeah, I mean, it's always like the Viterra. Like, what is happening? Like, who's gonna keep their momentum going? Again, we talk about Weyburn and their schedule. Yeah, there's teams around them, teams below them. But they gotta win those games. They gotta make hay. Like Notre Dame has played terrific against Weyburn this year. It's been a real bugaboo for the Weyburn Red Wings. I mean, you talk about the Melville Millionaires. They have another Doug Johnson Cup coming up on Friday in Nipawin. Melville heading to Nipawin. What do those 2 teams have going on? Because again, it seems like we always feel like the Nipawin Hawks have a great roster, and they do. They're so deep, all over the place. They added McInnes. They have all these guys coming in, Fouquet and Picacoot from the Western League and whatever too. Like, can they prove it by stringing some wins together? Rory, I think you said they haven't won too many games in a row.
They've never won 3 in a row.
Right, they've never won 3 in a row. So with that roster, they should. So can they take care of business at Centennial Arena with Melville in town. Again, more of the Viterra. Who knows what's going to happen in the Viterra?
And
so those are mine.
with the Viterra, too, all those teams, pretty much, with the exception of Yorkton, have games in hand on pretty much everyone in the league. So we talk about how there's a lot of kind of a clog in the middle of the standings. They also have more games to play as well. So we'll see how that all shakes down. Rory, what are you looking at?
The Estevan Bruins play 4 games in 5 days, and they're a team that's absolutely on a roll right now and trying to find separation so they're not in that cluster and worried about their final 2 games of the year. But yeah, they're going to go to Kindersley, neutral site game Tuesday. They're going to play Battleford, it's a tough game on Wednesday, and then they're going to play Melfort back home at Estevan for 2 straight games on Friday and Saturday. So it's tough, but we're going to find out who the Estevan Bruins. Well, maybe we won't. Maybe they'll win 2 and lose 2, and then we still won't know who they are. But
I think buckle up, Estevan fan. Now's your time. That's what I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Humboldt Battleford's a home and home set on the weekend. It's a really
juicy.
Good battle.
Juicy.
That is a game to watch.
Nutrien Division blood rivals.
Yes.
Both teams won 2-1 shootout victories in their only meeting of the season. They'll play each other 4 more times. So
be good.
So what you're saying is you're guaranteeing extra hockey, so you're getting a lot of value for your tickets when you go to these games because the weather's supposed to smarten up by the weekend.
Smarten up.
Now, on Thursday, I got called out because I said last week that the weather was great, and I didn't knock on wood, and then it became what it is now. It's a polar vortex. So I'm going to say by the weekend, the weather will be better.
Okay.
And
someone has an app.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, make sure you're following all of the action on all of the social media channels across the SJHL. That is, of course, the Facebook page, the X account. Ugh, I can't. I just... Elon, thanks a lot, buddy. Instagram, TikTok, of course, and also our YouTube channel. If you are watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Hit the subscribe button. As Jeromy says every week, it's easy and it's free. You can just do it. Just click the red button, and then it helps us out. It helps the league grow. It helps promote all these great players across the league. So that's what we're trying to do here. And if you can't make it to the rinks, make sure you get a Flow Hockey subscription. Because it is a great app, a great platform, and you can watch all the hockey except for the neutral site games. Breaking news.
Yeah, no Flow Hockey there.
They won't be on Flow Hockey just because neutral sites are tough to get a broadcast going. But make sure you keep an eye on Flow Hockey for all the other games, or go to the rink and enjoy the games at the rink. It's always better in the rink. I think we can all agree. And again, thank you to our amazing sponsors across the SJHL, of course, UPL, as you can see, furnished across the arena that we sit in here today, but also Borgo, Cantera Seeds, Capital, Automall, Chevrolet, Great Western, Nutrien, RBC, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Sask Lotteries, Tourism Saskatchewan, UPL, again, thank you, Sask Energy, SGEU, and SGI. There's a lot of letters there at the end of that list, but we love all of them equally. So, gentlemen, thanks for joining me today. Thanks for taking the brunt of having me as your host. And everyone in the back room, I'm not back there. I'm usually behind this wall back here. There is no wall because we're in an arena, but you know what I mean. I'm usually in the other room.
On the other side of the ice.
Yeah, the other side of the ice. Yeah. So thank you guys back there for filling in for me and doing a great job as per usual. And again, we will see you guys at the rinks or right here on Thursday for SJHL Insider and back here on Monday for SJHL Weekly. Also, shout out Jeromy Corrigan. Get better, buddy. We'll see you soon. That's it for me. For IKS Media, I'm Clark Monroe. Thanks for tuning in today, and enjoy the hockey, everyone.